Welcome to the Good Bad Mad podcast, a show that's here to share the ins and outs of creative careers, connecting the aspirational with the experienced, with your host, me, Meg Ellis. My guest for this episode is the wonderful film director Sophia Banks. She's an award-winning director whose debut feature, Black Site, has just wrapped filming in Australia. It stars Jason Clarke, Monaghan and Jai Courtney. She gives us great insight into her career journey and the transition from commercials to feature work. Hope you enjoy it.
Hello.
Hello, Sophia. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. How are things in London? How's editing going?
It's great. It's a very interesting process, having not been through it before on a feature, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having done shorts and that sort of stuff. I will definitely say when you see your first assembly, you're it's definitely, you're confronted with like, all right, what do I have here? And then that moment, which my friends of directors, where you're just sort of like, oh my gosh, what movie have I made? And then,
Really?
and then the last few weeks going through it and then putting back in how you saw the movie is really exhilarating and fantastic. And now I feel like I'm on the road to, a good movie. But there's a moment, I think, when you are confronted with what you did make and just, until you've got your hands on it editing, then I think it's a pretty common thing for first assembly is sort of putting in all the coverage as opposed to like the actual cut. So I think it's a common thing.
How was the first big shoot?
It was amazing and super intense. We only had 26 days to shoot an entire action film.
That is short.
It's very short. We were supposed to be 30, and then we had to, I think for budget, they had to cut a few days. So it was very tight and intense, but I had an amazing cast, and we had all prepared and an amazing cinematographer. And so we just got it done, and we were like running and gunning,
Did you feel prepared going into it?
I did, because I believe in preparation. So I had been working on it effectively. I was attached in July and we shot in January. So 6 months, of preparation. I think one of the biggest things I learned though, having worked with an incredible DP, was you prepare as much as you can. You go to the set, if you can. We weren't able to rehearse in the sets because our sets weren't ready. So, but then when you get there, you then have to look at, like, stand in front of that monitor and look at what the camera is giving you and see if you feel it and if it works, you know what I mean? And be prepared to also go, you know what, this was a great idea and it's not working at all, and then change it, you know what I mean? But it does help to come in with a plan. And I would say 40 or 50% of the time the plan worked and it was great, and 40 or 50% I had to scrap it, because you have to sort of have that courage to look at the monitor and go, you know what, I'm not what I thought it was going to create, and the effect and the emotion it's not, and kind of scrapping it,
Did you feel confident in terms of not just directing the movie, but by directing the crew and the set?
I've luckily done a lot of commercials.
Yeah.
And so short films, but I mean, absolutely. I can think back to one of the first times I directed, commercial and short film, and had that power. And if you find good people, I'll think to, like, when I did Unregistered, I had, a DP, Paul Cameron, who's lovely, who you just go, look, I have some ideas. It's my first movie, so I want your help.
Yeah.
And you embrace the fact that you go, you know what? I know some things, I don't know everything, and you surround yourself with people that want to help. That you'll find that there's amazing people in this industry, and they understand that and have been in that situation, and so I think that's a good way to sort of go into it rather than like, all right, I have to tell everyone what to do. So
no, it's great to be able to rely on people for their experiences, isn't it?
absolutely. And sometimes, we had very experienced, amazing people, and you tally that you're like, we have 1,000 years of experience here. So it's great. And that is important too, is to know that you're a first-time director and be fine with not knowing things and asking for help. You know what I mean? You don't have to know it all.
So let's start right at the beginning, because our aim at the Good Bad Mad is to really get a picture of the whole journey, for people to kind of understand what goes into these careers. It's not just suddenly overnight, ta-da, you're a director.
Oh no. So
where did you start? Did you always know you wanted to go into film?
You know what's so funny is, so I grew up in Australia. I can remember at 4 or 5 hearing there was a movie set nearby and being desperate to get to the movie set. Trying to get there and loving movies. But because it was so far, like now I look back and I realize that's what I always wanted to do. But because it was not an attainable career, nor anything that anybody ever spoke about at my school or anything, I didn't realize. But yes, I always had a photography camera in my hand. I was always watching movies. I was always gathering multiple of people in the playground and trying to direct them in like some sort of like play or ensemble, and loving, acting and performing and all that sort of stuff. But it really wasn't until I think I was about 18 or 19 that I think there was a short film festival in Sydney or something, and I'd acted in a short film, and so I tried to find a film school, and there wasn't really a film school, but at Sydney University they had a course on directing, and I was sitting there and I was watching The Godfather, and I remember thinking, okay, in class, and thinking, all right, this is what I want to do, and that was at 19 or 20 years old. It then took me another 10 years to get into the industry, because at that point, I tried to get, work and climb my way up, and was basically, told to go into the more female department. So I ended up in costume design and wardrobe, because, getting into camera operating and that sort of stuff was just not really an option, and wasn't somewhere that I felt like I could make, support myself as well. So I ended up coming to America, getting into that department, working, dressing, doing like big commercials on celebrities and costume and movies, and then using those fashion contacts to get across into commercials and then into movies. So, long journey. There is no such thing as an overnight success.
No.
And I think just always, being persistent, and I love learning. I'm still always asking questions and trying to do that sort of stuff. And I think you just have to go for it,
Yeah, I mean, I always think in terms of directors, but also producers, I think it's really handy to have experience in different departments, so you can really kind of respect what they do and understand what goes into it.
Yeah, no, it's very helpful.
Did you enjoy the fashion element?
I've always loved design. I'm a very visual storyteller. I always loved architecture, fashion, design. And again, so, I learned how to design clothes and do that sort of stuff. So it all ties in to visually creating a frame. So it's been very useful. I then have directed tons of fashion commercials, and being able to bring in the element. A lot of the times I'll get hired in commercials is because even if it's, a car or a different product, they want, people to look cool and feel cool and have a cool element. I did that girls skateboarding.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen that, but that was sort of one of the first girls skateboarding, like female empowerment thing. And
yeah, it was awesome.
Went viral and influenced, which then we saw a ton of skateboarding things later. So it's been very helpful. And I think, some of my favorite directors like Hitchcock and those sort of directors, you look at those frames and you see the influence of the wardrobe and the production design on the storytelling. So I think it's very useful to have had that.
Do you rely quite heavily on past work of directors in terms of piecing together what you might like a commercial or a film to look like?
Considering that you can't learn how to direct until you direct,
Mm-hmm.
one of the other best ways to learn what the language of cinema is, right, is to study director's work. I mean, there is a language of cinema and, different elements, whether you look at French cinema or English American storytelling cinema, there is a reason, if you really look at some of the great directors,
Mm-hmm.
the close up is it's a language,
Mm-hmm.
like how poetry is a language,
Mm-hmm.
when to use a close up, when to use a medium shot, when to use a wide shot, and how to look at things that emotionally impact you, and then look at the choice of framing and lighting and everything else to understand that. So I think that is a very, very important element for directors to study, break down films, look at how they're edited, and understand them. But I think then you want to take that in like a language and then write your own kind of story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's almost you've got this what's the word? Theoretical element.
Yes.
To begin with, you pull it apart, but then that theory needs to turn to instinct.
Yeah, but there is a language there, and if you can observe successful tools, I'm interested in creating an emotional impact on an audience. I want people to, it depends on the movie, but I am interested in an audience, in communicating to an audience and entertaining an audience, and therefore there are tools that one can use. For example, Hitchcock was the master of suspense.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to understand how to put an audience on the edge of the seat, and make that, and he is the master of that. So that is and that is through his choice of shots, lenses, lighting, and editing, so I think it's an important thing to look at, especially seeing it's not, it's practical experience. Directing is not as easy. It's not like, you can go out and edit and cut your own short films, but you want to try and go into a movie knowing as much as you can, Yeah.
So you were in commercials. What prompted the move to short films?
I was always going for features. So I went into commercials having looked at Ridley Scott, Fincher, Tony Scott, different directors, and seeing that it was a very successful way to cross across. So that was the intention. And I'd also knew that I wanted to go into big budget action, sci-fi movies. And so having looked at Neil Blomkamp with District 9 and a few other directors that had basically done a more expensive short, because I chose, it's really that I could have done an independent feature.
Yeah.
But really what I was interested in was big budget.
You like
an action movies. So I was like, all right, well, I can do 15 or 12 minutes of that and show. I wanted to show, and if you've watched Unregistered, you could see that it could feel like it was part of a $30 million movie.
Yeah. No, 100%. Same as Proxy.
Yes. So that was like, okay, good. Where do I want to go and how can I show those skills? So that was just because for what I want to do as an artist is those bigger type of movies. So that was the way. And also I think it's good to look at how others have got there. And I did look at what directors have been given big movies and they had done, smaller shorts.
So this was a very deliberate pathway that you set for yourself. It wasn't, oh, I've got this story in my head. I feel like I could do this and maybe chuck it to a few festivals. It was, no, these are the skills that I want to demonstrate in order to get me here.
Well, it's both sides, right? So you have the like, I'm going to make a short film. And then as an artist, right now I probably have 4 or 5 stories that I'm desperate to tell, right? So so that's the mathematical, analytical side of like, all right, well, where do I want to go? What type of director do I want to be? Like from a career, if you're giving someone career advice, what type of director do you want to do? Look at how they got there, right? So that's that side. Then as an artist and a storyteller, the whole reason I'm a director is because I want to communicate ideas and thoughts to millions of people. So the story of Unregistered, I had a grandmother that, survived and went through the Holocaust. It was a comment on the one-child policy in China and totalitarian governments and things that, I had observed and wanted to say about society. So that happened. And I would say I probably have 3 scripts going on my computer right now of things that I'm like, I have to tell that to people. So you just combine those and Unregistered will become a movie. It was always, I want to make this movie.
Yeah.
And then it was like, all right, well, I can't afford to make this movie. So what I can do is do a proof of concept and then later on get the money to make the movie. So there's the analytical career side, and then there's like the burning kind of storytelling reason as an artist, which is the whole reason that I'm a director.
Did you used to, just listening to the kind of stories and genres that you're interested in, were you a big reader when you were young of like Orwell? And
my favorite writer of all time is Orwell. Yeah. In fact, I reread 1984 Animal Farm like 2 months ago, and I'm reading right now We, which is the Russian book that Orwell read before he wrote 1984. I'm a huge British. That's my father's British side. I'm a big Shakespeare fan too, and British literature. But I love George Orwell. So
yeah, I love the complexity of Orwell, because it's not just. It could have so easily been almost a YA anti-totalitarian story, but it's so complex in the way that you end up feeling about these characters. I love that complexity.
Me too. Winston. I love Winston.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I hated him. Yeah.
I know. You, but then you feel for him. So I love that. I love, I love Monty Python. I love Brazil. I love, the English complexity and stuff. But yes, no, I'm a big fan. And Fahrenheit 451 and a lot of science fiction.
No, I love it. I love the ambition behind it, despite there being so few female directors in those areas.
No, I know. You just, if you have a blind self-confidence and belief in you will make it if you don't give up. And you just keep going and keep going and keep going. And eventually, like just relentless persistence, really. And you just go there, Yeah.
You mentioned in your late teens that you felt there was this barrier there, in terms of not having the confidence to go into being a female DP or director. But do you still feel that resistance now, or do you feel like the doors have opened a bit more?
The doors have opened, I will say. The doors have, I feel like, have opened in the last few years. And I think, you know, if I could have said something to myself then was just go do it. You know, if people ask me, what should I do if I want to be a director? I'm like, you know, get your iPhone, go make a movie, edit it together on iMovie. It may be terrible, but I'll tell you, number 10 in will be way better than number 1. And then you can submit stuff to festivals, and that is something that is easy to do. So if I could have said to myself, fine, you can't necessarily get a job and that sort of stuff, but I could have done that in the weekend and grabbed 2 friends and do that. And that is a very accessible, easy thing to do, that, you know, one can do to move forward.
So you made 3 short films, is that right?
2 short films. Well, the skateboarding, I guess. Yeah. 3. Yeah.
So we'll say 3. How important were festivals in pushing you towards the role that you're currently in?
I think they're great, because basically what I would do is, and I would say, like, relentless promotion and hounding people in a nice, friendly way, was you can submit on those websites like Film Free, you know what I mean? And I was able to say, okay, good. The short film, the skateboarding one, was like nominated for, or I don't know, it was a lot, like 50 awards or that sort of stuff. So it's great. And in the beginning, just trying to think, we got into Holly Shorts and then Tribeca for Unregistered. And so going to those festivals, great. You know what I mean? Like the ones I could drive to or go to, it's great, because it's just, it is a relationship business. You got to network and chat to people and meet people. And, you know, if you're a director, you may meet writers and all that sort of stuff. So it's great to basically do that. You know, if I was living in London, I may not fly to America. I remember I went to like Newport Beach. I went to events and things that I could, because you just, you know, you have to get yourself out there.
100%. So when did Black Site become more than a possibility?
You know, it happened actually. So during COVID last year in July, suddenly, after, you know, not suddenly, I mean, I'd been working on pitching at movies. I'd signed with CAA before. Love my agents. And we'd been pitching on various movies, and one movie almost happened and that sort of stuff. And then 3 movies happened at that time. So there was this one, another action thriller, and then another kind of sci-fi $60 million movie that I'm going to go on to next. All happened together. But what I'd done is, during COVID, is one of the things I just decided to do was, like, I was like, great, give me every script to read. And I would read scripts and put together kind of these books that would pitch like my idea of what I wanted to do for a movie. And so that happened in July last year. And so then Black Site was like, great, we want to go. We're ready to go in Australia. And so that one just started to happen.
So with these potential scripts, is your agent hooking you up with them?
Yeah, my agent will send me material of scripts that are looking for, it's called like an open directing assignment. So looking for directors and stuff like that. But before I had an agent, if you're looking for material, there's things like the Blacklist, if you've heard of the Blacklist. So I was actively looking. I mean, there are writers out there with scripts, you know, so yeah, you just gotta, that's what was the other great thing about going to festivals, was meeting with people. Yeah.
So you get this, what did you call it? Open directors?
Like assignment. Yeah.
And do they expect you to do these lookbooks?
No.
So that's what you do to kind of stand out from the crowd.
Absolutely. I am all about over delivering on a commercial. I show up and I'm like, great, what am I going to do I'm going to deliver on time. I'm going to rehearse. Like, how can I do the most that one would expect of me, so that the client, by the time they're done with the commercial, is like, wow, okay, like she, you know what I mean? Like I go over and above, because that's, you know, that's sort of what I want to do. And I want to feel like, all right, they're paying me. I'm going to give them
everything
more. Yeah. And so if I felt passionate about something, I thought, you know, I would make this lookbook and put my ideas in films, and it would take me like a week, and I'd send it off. And I just was like, you know what, I'm going to show, it shows a work ethic and that you're willing to do something. And I probably made 40 or 50 of those books last year.
What goes into a lookbook?
So this is my version of it. I'm sure people have other versions. I use images from movies, like to show, it's my concept of what the movie would look like. So it'll have other images, and it'll have different sections about like, this is a style of cinematography and wardrobe, or just my pitch on how I would shoot that movie.
Does it include actor suggestions and location suggestions, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Sometimes, just depending on, like, if you read a script and you're like, all right, it's so clear to me that this is the type of person that would be in it. But it's sort of like you read a script and then it's just your version of what you feel like that movie would be. Yeah.
And with those, you signed up for three deals, essentially.
Yes.
How exciting.
Yeah, so that was great. So
are you just booked solid then for the next like 5 years?
No. One, I'm not going to do anymore because I did Black Site. So I'm on to this next project. So I'm booked for like another year.
Yeah.
Or so. So, and then we just sold Proxy to turn into a TV show that we'll be doing an announcement about. So it's great.
That's so exciting for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
100%. It sounds like a lot of hard work is paying off for you.
That is true. I definitely work hard. You know what I mean? And yeah. It's like, I think during Black Site, from January till the time it was done, I probably slept 4 hours a night and worked like 20 hours a day. Yeah.
I love it. I love it when you get in those zones. You just feel, you don't feel tired, I don't think. You just
Yeah, you just like keep going. Then you collapse afterwards for 5 days. Yeah.
So you get the offer to be director of this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, you've gone at it so head on. Like, you're not just doing a indie drama, you know, you're doing a full-on action movie.
And there were days that I was like, wow, this is definitely a lot. You know what I mean? I definitely, as a human being, like to go at things head on. I did go, before I went and shot this movie, I went and did like some martial art training. I did tactical training, gun training, that sort of stuff, because I was like, all right, well, I want to make sure I know how to direct that sort of stuff. But yeah, for sure. I feel like any movie that someone takes on, you know, fine, there's action, I have stunt sequences, but, you know, a movie in a house with 4 people and trying to keep that emotion and drama up as a different sort of challenges. I think anyone who makes a movie at all should, you know, celebrate at making it through. It's definitely a whole endeavor, you know what I mean? And all movies have challenges, and it's great. You know, we want people making movies. So I think they all have their own challenges.
When do you think we'll get to see this one?
This one is due out next year. So
cinemas?
I mean, theatrical release probably for the States. Again, just, you know, COVID depending. But yeah.
Oh, what a feeling that will be.
I know. I went to many movies. Australia is pretty COVID free. So when I arrived there in November, the first thing my daughter and I did was go and see. We went to the movie theaters 8 days in a row. We saw everything that was playing. We'd go out, go in the sun, and we had to do 2 weeks quarantine. So we'd be out and about. And then at like 4:30, we'd say, all right, we're going to go see a movie.
I love that. I'm so waiting for them to open. I don't even care what I go see. I just want to go see.
That's exactly how we were, because they weren't that many new movies. They were playing a bunch of movies and we're like, great, we're happy. Let's do it, you know?
What qualities would you say are essential to doing what you do?
I think the number one thing would be communication, the ability to communicate, because essentially, and probably leadership, but essentially you have to communicate what you have in your head to other people, a vision, you know what I mean? And clear communication to each department is what's going to get people on board. A producer friend of mine once told me the most important thing is to make sure that everyone is making the same movie. And so that's really important. Communication with actors. And I think the ability to communicate and deal with all different types of people. At the end of the day, that's really the thing that can solve issues and that sort of stuff. So I think being a good communicator, working on your communication skills, making sure you're clearly communicating your ideas many times to many people is really important. And then I think leadership skills, being willing to lead and not lead with an iron, like it has to be this way, but listen and lead, but wanting to direct people towards a goal, because that's essentially what you're doing. So those two skills, I think, are really important, No,
100%. I think you just need to enjoy it as well.
Definitely. You have to remind yourself to have a good time. That's for sure. Because obviously it is stressful, especially when you're shooting, with such a limited time and you're like, I got to make my day and that sort of stuff. Is you have to remind yourself to have fun every day.
One last question for you to tie it all together. What are the good, bad, and mad things about what you do?
The good things are, in my mind, you get to make a movie. And I have to say, I love movies. I love being on set. I always say it's a pack of gypsies, you know what I mean? Like it's the type of people that for hundreds of years have been running around and creating, and you get to make something and create, you know what I mean? So the good, I think the bad would be, it's just so intense when you're doing it, you know what I mean? And so I think that, and you have to learn to turn the bad. This is a good lesson I learned. Things go wrong and you have to learn to turn the bad into an opportunity. So it's like, all right, you show up to a location, you can't shoot there. So it's like, and you'll hear about this, from directors all the time. And then suddenly, they couldn't shoot in a location. They go outside and there's beautiful sunlight and they get the shot that makes the movie.
Yeah.
I think the key is turning the bad. And then the ugly is probably just the long hours. Yeah. And relentless, like, all right, we're here and going through, So, but I think the key that I learned during this film and being a control freak, as probably many directors are, right? Because you like to control stuff, is to embrace the chaos and know that things may not go according to plan and use that to create something better, right? Yeah.
Sophia, thank you so much.
Thank you too. It was so great to talk to you.
No, likewise, and really good luck with the rest of the editing. And
oh, thank you so much. I'm off there now.
Yeah, good luck, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Good Bad Mad podcast. Please subscribe to check out the next episode, or leave a review if you liked it. You can find us on Instagram at goodbadmad or at goodbadmad.com for additional resources and information. See you next time.